Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
All right, welcome back to Battles, American Civil War, Behind the Battles. And covering somebody new that
new.
I bet not many people have heard of at all. We're talking about Mary Edwards Walker. She is the one, the only ever woman to receive the Medal of Honor.
Oh.
She was a nurse in the Civil War. And she was also a woman suffrage movement supporter guy thing. And she also didn't like wearing dresses.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And only wanted to wear pants.
Oh, her and Calamity Jane would have got along.
Right. Well, Mary, she was born November 26, 1832, in the town of Oswego, New York. Her parents were Elva and Vesta Walker. And Mary was one of 6 kids, 4 older sisters, 1 younger brother. And let me tell you what, a Walker family, they weren't your average 1830s American household. See, Elva and Vesta were deeply religious, devoted Christians. But they were also what we'd call free thinkers. Can't be both, but
Right.
basically they'd raise their kids to question stuff.
Wow.
Not a rebellious, break the rules just because kind of way, but in a thoughtful, why does this rule exist? And is it just?
Oh.
And they didn't play into the usual 19th century gender roles either. Vesta, she was out there doing the heavy lifting on the farm, and Elva, he was perfectly fine doing chores inside the house.
No shit.
Data!
Wow.
They shared responsibilities like equals, and their kids saw that every day.
Mary worked on the family farm alongside her siblings. She quickly decided that traditional women's clothing, corsets, tight dresses, all that bullshit just wasn't practical. I mean, trying to haul hay in a corset? I don't think so. Her mom backed her up, too, saying those tight clothes were unhealthy. So even as a kid, Mary was pushing back against the whole idea of what a proper lady was supposed to be. Let's take a look at education. Well, it was a big deal in the Walker household. Elva and Vesta didn't just say, hey, boys, go to school. Girls, stay home. No, they wanted all their kids to get a solid education. Wait, girls didn't go to school back then?
Well, they wanted to be homemakers, man.
Oh, wow. So much so, they actually started the first free schoolhouse in Oswego.
Because none of the other ones would let the girls go, probably.
Yeah, in the late 1830s that happened. And this is where Mary got her elementary schooling. And fucking
Elementary, my dear. After that, she and 2 of her older sisters went on to attend Falley Seminary over in Fulton, New York. Falley wasn't just your typical school. It was all about modern ideas, reforming gender roles, improving hygiene, pushing educational standards. Basically, it aligned perfectly with everything Mary already believed. And being in that environment just made her more determined to live on her own terms. We can't be in an echo chamber.
Right. In her free time, Mary would dive into her daddy's medical books, texts on anatomy and physiology. Just out of curiosity, she did that. But that curiosity, it grew into a passion. Eventually, she started teaching school herself in a little town called Minetto, New York. She saved enough money from teaching to pay her own way through medical school. Then she attended Syracuse Medical College.
Awesome.
Graduated in 1855.
Syracuse is around then, huh?
Yeah, she graduated with honors as a doctor. And oh yeah, she was the only woman in her class.
Look at her.
She's the only woman doctor, right?
Right. In that area, I would assume. Well, that same year, just before she turned 23, she got married. She tied the knot with, that's 10 years too late.
Right.
She tied the knot with Albert Miller, who was a fellow med student. As you might expect, Mary didn't exactly do the whole traditional bride thing. She wore a short skirt with trousers underneath.
Damn.
Because, of course, she refused to say the word obey in her vows. And she didn't even take her husband's last name. I mean, come on.
Whoa.
Because Mary Walker was going to be Mary Walker no matter what.
No hyphen or anything.
Right. Well, they set up a joint medical practice together in Rome. Her name was first.
In Rome, New York, that is.
Rome, New York, right. But unfortunately, being a female doctor in the 50s of 1800s didn't exactly inspire trust in most people, right? The practice struggled. Eventually, the marriage did too. And old Albert, he had an affair, and Mary said bye.
He's like, I want a real woman.
Right. Yeah, probably.
1860, Mary decided to keep pushing her education. She briefly enrolled at Bowen Collegiate Institution, today now called Lenox College. This is in Hopkinton. This is in Hopkinton, Iowa.
Wow, that's a
Damn.
hell of a trek.
You ain't kidding. But she didn't stay long. She got suspended for refusing to resign from the school's all-male debating society. That's right, she joined, participated, and when they asked her to step down because she was a woman, so how does she join and participate?
Right.
And she said, nope.
Because she was probably making the other dudes look like fools.
Right. So they kicked her out. That's just the beginning of Mary Edwards Walker's story. And as you can already tell, she was a total force, not a farce. From how she dressed to how she lived, loved, and worked, she challenged just about every expectation society had for women in the 1800s. Good for her.
As you might guess, when the Civil War broke out, she didn't wait around for someone to ask her to help. She volunteered right away. She wanted to serve as a surgeon for the Union Army. This wasn't some wild idea she just came up with. She had already been running her own private medical practice for years, yes. But the Army flat out rejected her because, guess what? She was a woman.
That makes sense.
They offered her a job as a nurse instead, which that's not what she trained for, obviously. She got a freaking medical degree.
Right.
So she said no thanks, decided to volunteer anyway, on her own terms, as a surgeon, working with the Union Army as a civilian.
Oh.
At the time, the Army didn't have any female surgeons, so she was only allowed to practice as a nurse, despite being just as qualified as the men, if not more. So she still could only be a nurse.
Right. Jeez. Still, she didn't sit around and wait. She jumped right into the action and served during the first Battle of Bull Run on the 21st of July, 1861. She also worked at the Patent Office Hospital in D.C., doing everything she could to help the wounded. She didn't stop there either. She took her medical skills out into the field as an unpaid field surgeon, right up near the front lines. Damn. She treated soldiers at Fredericksburg, Chattanooga, and Chickamauga.
Oh.
Damn.
Well, she wasn't just focused on medicine either. She was a full-on suffragist, too. She believed in women's rights and equal treatment, equal rights and lefts, baby.
Yep.
And she was thrilled to see women finding ways to serve in the war effort. One case in particular really stuck with her. A woman named Frances Hook, who would disguise herself as a man to fight in the Union Army. Well, Frances ended up wounded and in the Chattanooga Hospital, Ward 2, and Mary made sure the press knew about it. She wanted people to see what women were capable of. What, getting wounded?
Yeah, right. Eventually, Mary became the first official female surgeon for the Union Army. It was a huge deal.
Huge.
She kept wearing men's clothing while she worked. Not as some kind of statement at first, but because it was just more practical. Long skirts and corsets didn't exactly mix with the battlefield.
Right.
September of 1862, she even tried to take it one step further and offered to work for the War Department as a spy, which would help. She's a woman. That offer got turned down, but she wasn't done pushing. A year later, in 1863 of September, she finally got official recognition. The Army of the Cumberland brought her on as a contract acting assistant surgeon. Still technically a civilian, but this made her the first female surgeon officially employed by the United States Army. Good for her.
Cool. But not long after, she was appointed assistant surgeon of the 52nd Ohio Infantry. And this wasn't desk work, obviously. She was crossing battle lines, treating wounded civilians, doing the real thing.
Nice.
I would assume.
Right.
But in April of 1864, her luck ran out for a while. She was captured by old Confederate troops, accused of being a spy. And this was not long after she helped a Confederate doctor perform an amputation.
Oh, jeez.
They didn't care. They arrested her and sent her to Castle Thunder in Richmond, Virginia.
Wow, she was there for about 4 months, from April 10th to August 12th, 1865.
Might as well let her be a spy if she was going to get arrested as one, too.
Right. And while she was locked up, the Confederates tried to make her wear women's clothing. Sometimes something they considered more appropriate for her sex, they said. She said no. She stuck to her principles, even behind the bars. Eventually, she was released in a prisoner exchange. The Union traded a captured Confederate surgeon from Tennessee to get her back.
Look at that.
Not bad for someone who was originally rejected by the Army, right? Even after that, Mary kept going. She went on to serve as supervisor of a women's prison in Louisville, and then became head of an orphanage in Tennessee. She didn't slow down. She just found new ways to serve.
After the war ended, she didn't just fade in the background either. She'd been through a lot. Battlefield surgery, capture, prison, and she left the war with some lasting injuries. While she was imprisoned by the Confederates, she developed partial muscular atrophy. Oh, wow. And after the war, the government awarded her a disability pension for it.
Oh, wow.
At first, they gave her $8.50 a month, $8.50 a month.
That's pretty damn good.
Starting June 13th, 1865. Wasn't much, especially considering what she'd endured.
Well,
But by 1899, they finally bumped it up to $20 a month. Well, a little closer to what she deserved back in the $20 a month. What would $20 a month in 1899 be?
Probably about 2,000.
$774.
Okay.
Still not a lot.
No. Well, post-war, Mary threw herself into the public life. She became a writer, a public speaker, pushing for all things women.
Basically, yeah.
Healthcare reform, temperance, women's rights, something she's really never let go of, dress reform for women. 1871, she tried to register to vote, just showed up and said, I have that right. But of course, she was turned away. At that time, her argument, and the movement's early argument, was that women already had the right to vote. The Constitution didn't explicitly forbid it, so Congress just needed to pass a law to enforce that right. But that approach didn't get anywhere. Eventually, the mainstream suffrage movement shifted gears and started pushing for a constitutional amendment. Mary disagreed with that. She thought the amendment wasn't necessary and stuck to her original view. That difference of opinion, along with her non-traditional style and stubborn independence, pushed her out of the inner circle of the movement. They're like, you're fucking us up.
Right.
We're getting somewhere.
Even then, she kept showing up at conventions, though, handing out her own literature, making her case. But for the most part, the rest of the movement ignored her. And her look didn't help win them over either. She was known for showing up in full masculine attire, sometimes with a top hat. She didn't dress to blend in. She dressed to be herself.
Aww. Wow. While her style and ideas stirred up controversy in the United States, she actually found a more supportive audience, which was overseas. England received her more warmly than her own country. In 1907, she published a book called Crowning Constitutional Argument. In that very book, she made her case again. The right to vote for women was already baked into some state constitutions, and even the federal constitution.
She also testified in front of Congress in 1912 and 1914. She spoke before committees of the House of Representatives about women's suffrage. She never stopped fighting for what she believed in. But eventually, age and illness caught up with her. Mary died February 21st, 1919, at the age of 86 at home in Oswego, New York.
Pretty damn good.
And just like her funeral was simple, just the way she probably would have wanted it. She was buried in a rural cemetery, wearing a black suit instead of a dress, with an American flag draped over her coffin.
Fuck yeah.
And the crazy thing is, she died just 1 year before the 19th Amendment was passed, finally guaranteeing women the right to vote.
No shit. I wonder if the Spanish flu took her out.
Maybe. She didn't live to see it happen, but she spent her entire life pushing for it.
Take a look at the dress reform. From a very young age, Mary was inspired by her parents' practical approach to dressing, especially when it came to health. They believed clothes should be functional, not restrictive. Mary took that idea and ran with it. She became famous, and maybe infamous, for challenging the traditional women's wardrobe. Back then, this push for more practical, comfortable clothing was called the rational dress movement. 1871, she wrote something that really sums it up. She said, "The greatest sorrows from which women suffer today are those physical, moral, and mental ones that are caused by their unhygienic manner of dressing." In other words, corsets, heavy skirts, layers of petticoats, they weren't just uncomfortable. They were unhealthy. They restricted movement. They made it harder to breathe. They literally dragged women down.
It's quite true.
I'll have to agree. Well, that's a debate right there.
Mary hated long skirts with tons of petticoats, not just because they were annoying to wear, but because they collected dust and dirt everywhere he went. She wanted to be able to move. She wanted women to be able to move, breathe, and live freely. Mm-hmm. So she started experimenting. As a young woman, she began modifying her outfits, changing up skirt lengths, reducing layers, and always wearing men's trousers underneath. By 1861, she had a go-to look. Trousers with suspenders, a tight-waisted, knee-length dress with a full skirt. It was kind of a mashup between a Victorian dress and a utilitarian work uniform.
Her family backed her up, but society, not so much. One time, she was working as a school teacher. She was walking home when a local farmer and a group of boys attacked her. They threw eggs, oh shit, and who knows what else at her, just because of the way she dressed. Her classmates in medical school weren't kind either. Other female students criticized her openly. And when she started practicing medicine, patients would sometimes gawk at her or even mock her. Oh,
like,
wow.
dude, she's about to save your life.
Right.
But Mary didn't back down. For her, dress reform was just as important as any of her other causes. She believed that women's clothing should protect the body, not hurt it, and should allow freedom of movement and blood circulation. that it shouldn't turn the wearer into a slave for fashion.
Oh,
She even wrote to the Sybil, which was a women's journal, with the absolutely fantastic full title of A Review of the Tastes, Errors, and Fashions of Society.
oh, fantastic.
In her letters, she didn't just talk about the health risks of women's fashion. She went all in, blaming impractical clothing for everything from wasted money to ruined marriages. She argued that these ridiculous fashion standards were hurting women in every possible way, physically, emotionally, socially, mentally,
It's crazy.
verbally.
Right.
Just because she got divorced because her husband wanted a real woman.
Right. Her writing caught on. She became a well-known voice among feminists and other female physicians who saw how closely health, freedom, and equality were all tied together. Now, standing out like that had consequences, as we all know. In 1870, while she was in Nolens, she got arrested for wearing men's clothing. And not quietly either. Men who arrested her mocked her relentlessly. One officer twisted her arm and even asked her if she ever been with a man at all. Like her clothing somehow gave them permission to interrogate her private life. But once they realized who she was, Dr. Mary Edwards Walker, they let her go. She was too well known, too public to just disappear quietly into a jail cell.
Right.
To a jail cell.
Jason.
And still, none of it stopped her. She kept wearing what worked for her. She kept pushing for reform. She kept refusing to let anyone else define what it meant to be a woman.
Whoa, man. Let's talk about that Medal of Honor that we mentioned earlier.
We promised.
After the war, Mary Edwards Walker wasn't done pushing for recognition. She gave them everything. Her time, her health, even her freedom. And she wanted her service formally acknowledged. So she went after something that hadn't been done before. A retroactive military commission or brevet to validate what she'd done for the Army.
She deserves it.
President Andrew Johnson actually got involved and told Secretary of War Edwin Stanton to look into whether it was even legally possible. Stanton asked the Army's Judge Advocate General, who came back with a tricky answer. There was no precedent for commissioning a woman, but he said maybe they could issue something else, something kind of an honorary recognition instead.
What assholes. Well, that's when President Johnson, he made a personal decision. Instead of a commission, he ordered Mary the Medal of Honor.
Yeah, but if he would have commissioned her, she would have got a pension.
Right. The highest military decoration in the United States. But here's the twist. She wasn't officially recommended for it through the usual military channels. And because she didn't technically hold a commission, she shouldn't have been eligible in the first place. But in the unusual case, it just happened. And for a while, that was that.
For a while. Then fast forward to 1916, 50 years later, Congress, they passed a new law creating a pension for Medal of Honor recipients. But as part of that, they established separate Medal of Honor roles for the Army and Navy. Around the same time, the Army decided it wanted to go back and clean things up, to retroactively review all previous recipients and weed out what they called undesirable awards.
Right, because a lot back then, they were just giving to everybody.
Right. Problem was, when the Medal of Honor was first created, there weren't any real regulations. You could get one for just about anything. In fact, nearly 900 soldiers received the medal just for re-enlisting.
Right.
That's not a Medal of Honor.
Yeah,
come on, guys.
Come on, boys. So the Army put together a new Medal of Honor board. From 1916 to 1917, this board reviewed every frickin' name that ended up removing 911 people from the Army Medal of Honor roll. That list included, you guessed it, Mary Edwards Walker.
Yep.
And even Buffalo Bill, William Cody. Mary's case, the reasoning was the laws on the books in 1862, 1863, and 1904 all clearly said recipients had to be commissioned officers or enlisted soldiers. Mary had served as a contract surgeon, which was a civilian, so technically, no Medal of Honor for you.
There, where it gets a little shady, the board didn't remove everyone who was technically ineligible. At least 2 other contract surgeons were allowed to keep their medals.
Oh, my.
One of them was Leonard Wood, who later became Army Chief of Staff. When he got the Medal of Honor, he'd been a civilian contractor too, just like Mary.
Oh, wow.
The board knew that. In fact, the head of the board, General Nelson Miles, had recommended Wood for the medal twice, and still took Mary's away.
Oh, wow. Wow. Despite removing her from the Medal of Honor roll, the Army didn't actually ask for the medal back, though. That's because their own Judge Advocate General pointed out they didn't have the legal power to enforce it. Congress hadn't granted them jurisdiction to demand its return or to penalize people for keeping their medals. So technically, Mary never had to give it up. though her name was officially struck from the roll. Whatever, I still got this motherfucking... Still got it. Did it have their names on them? Probably not.
Maybe. Well, here's things get a little messy and honestly a bit misunderstood. A lot of people say President Jimmy Carter restored Mary's Medal of Honor in 1977. But that's probably not true. That decision actually came from way lower in the chain, which is from the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs. They were acting on a recommendation from the Board for the Correction of Military Records. Okay, but he had the power.
Right. Wow. The weird part, well, neither the Ford nor Carter administration supported this move. When Carter's White House found out the board had reinstated the medal, their reaction was basically, wait, what?
What?
They were confused, for good reason. Because there's the thing, the Board of Correction is only supposed to fix errors or injustices. It's not supposed to override federal law, boys. Mary's removal had been based on that law. So the restoration, well-meaning, probably exceeded the board's legal authority.
All right, what are you doing?
All right.
Well, you can see how complicated this gets when you look at the case of Garland Connor, who was another Medal of Honor recipient who was recognized after Mary. His award in 2018 also came through the Board for Correction, but that one followed all the legal steps. It went through the president and required a special waiver from Congress. And that's what should have happened in Mary's case, too, but it didn't.
Didn't. Still, through all the red tape and legal arguments, one thing never changed. Mary believed she earned that medal. In her own words, she said she received it because she had the courage to go into enemy territory and treat the suffering, something no man had dared to do for fear of capture. And as we know, she was captured and imprisoned for 4 months for doing exactly that.
Our official Medal of Honor citation laid it out in detail. It lists her service at Bull Run, the Patent Office Hospital, Chattanooga after Chickamauga, and even includes her time as a prisoner of war in Richmond. It praises her patriotic zeal and the toll her service took on her health. And since she couldn't be given a commission or honorary military rank under the law, the Medal of Honor was awarded as an alternative, which was to recognize the incredible work she had done. And that's how Mary Edwards Walker, a contract surgeon, Civil War veteran, POW, and dress performer, became the only woman in U.S. history to receive the Medal of Honor. And she was also inducted to the National Women's Hall of Fame in 2000. Took you long enough from Women's Hall of Fame. Who'd you put in before her?
Holy shit. Well, her legacy did not end with her death. In fact, it kept growing. Over the decades, people have found some pretty incredible ways to honor her. During World War II, the United States launched a Liberty ship named after her, the SS Mary Walker. Now, those ships, they were built fast and in huge numbers to help the war effort. But not everyone got one named after them. It was a meaningful nod to her wartime service, even if it was 80 years after the Civil War.
Then in 1982, the U.S. Postal Service honored her with her own 20-cent stamp, commemorating her birthday and putting her face in mailboxes across the country. At SUNY Oswego, her hometown college, the medical center is named the Mary Walker Health Center.
Syracuse.
Oh, and right outside it, there's a plaque explaining just how important she was to the Oswego community, and really to the country.
Oh. There's also a United States Army Reserve Center in Walker, Michigan, that bears her name. A solid nod from the military that once refused to commission her. And then if you go over to D.C., there's the Whitman Walker Clinic, named for both Walt Whitman, who served as a nurse during the Civil War, and Mary. Two unconventional, deeply compassionate people who gave everything to help the wounded. At the Fort Irwin National Training Center in California, there's also the Mary Walker Clinic, continuing to provide care to today's soldiers, just as Mary did for the Union troops over 150 years ago.
Well, in Philly, her legacy touches another critical cause. The Mary E. Walker House is a transitional residence with 30 beds, which is run by the Philadelphia Veterans Multi-Service and Education Center. It's specifically for homeless women veterans, a group that Mary would have championed with every fiber of her being. Back in her hometown, Oswego, New York, they took things a step further. May 2012, the town unveiled a 900-pound bronze statue of Mary Walker based on her actual weight. Right in front of Town Hall. It's a striking tribute, because how else do you honor someone that bold, that unshakable? The unshakable Mary Walker.
Damn right, that's a hell of a name. She's also earned a place in pop culture, 2019, Hillary and Chelsea Clinton, after they got finished eating their babies, they wrote a book called The Book of Gutsy Women.
Oh, yeah. The book of eating gutsies out of women.
Favorite stories of courage and resilience. Which, let's be honest, she's 100% belongs in. What?
Well, sirs, she 100% belongs in.
Which, let's be honest, she 100% belongs in that book. And then came a huge moment in 2023. The United States Defense Department was renaming bases that had previously been named after Confederate soldiers. One of those, Fort A.P. Hill in Virginia.
He didn't deserve a damn base anyway.
No.
Well, August 25th, 2023 was officially renamed Fort Walker in honor of clearly. It made her the first woman in U.S. history to have a military base exclusively named after her. The Army, they once told her she couldn't be a surgeon because she was a woman, and now an entire base carries her name. But wait! There's a twist. Because of old Hitler himself, Donald Trump, coming in June 2025, that administration changed the base name, reportedly, to Fort Anderson Pin Hill, which seems to combine names of different historical figures, which includes A.P. Hill, so they had to get the hill in there again. Right. It's unclear how permanent that is, but for a brief shining moment, Fort Walker stood as a singular tribute to Mary. He couldn't even keep Walker in there?
Right. And just when you think her story couldn't stretch any further, 2024, Mary Edwards Walker honored on the United States Quarter as part of the American Women series. The coin shows her holding in her pocket surgical kit with the Medal of Honor and a surgeon's pin on her uniform. It's bold. It's dignified. It's exactly the kind of image you'd expect from someone who never let anyone tell her who she could be. She is Mary Edwards Walker.
Hi, that's Mary Edwards Walker, and we'll be back next week for more Union Guy, probably. And yeah, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Medal of Honor winner, good for her. And yeah, we'll see you next week for more Battles of the American War, Behind the Battles of the Bang dang.